Thanks, Wendy. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're going to have a very interactive session. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you would, on the chats as we go along, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and ask for your inputs. Please put that into the chat box. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer, put those in the Q&A box. And the reason I say that is because as we're chatting and going through the session, a lot of messages, hopefully, will be scrolling along, and I don't want to lose those questions that you're asking me. I'll address the questions as we go through, if there's an appropriate time, and if not, then I will get to them at the end. We will have time at the end for Q&A. All right, so welcome, everybody. As I said, we're going to have a very interactive session, and you are going to help me determine how we're going to plan and manage an engaging learning program. So what we're going to do is start out by we're going to take a trip back in time. Now, let me ask you, how many of you have seen the movie Back to the Future? Go ahead and chat that in. Let's test the chat function right now. How many of you have seen Back to the Future? All right, good. So I'm getting some of those in the chat. Please put those in the chat if you can find the chat box and not the Q&A. Excellent. Well, Back to the Future, we're going to visit that a little bit. It's a fun movie. The main character travels back in time to the 1950s, and then he spends the rest of the movie trying to return back to his current time, which is 1985. Well, you know, for us, 1985 was a long time ago, right? That's our history. And today we're going to take a trip into our past. So in order to do that, I want you to think back to your first day of high school. For some of you, it'll be a more recent memory. For others, maybe a little bit longer ago. So think back to your first day of high school. Now, I hope this is not going to be too traumatic for anybody, because I have to admit, if I had to go back to high school today, it'd be kind of a culture shock. But and honestly, I know that I sometimes still have dreams about being back in high school and not being able to remember my locker combination, right? So we won't need our lockers today, just memories of what the first day of school was like. Okay, so remember your first day. Okay, I like that. Who hasn't seen the movie? Well, you never know, right? You never know. But at least you've heard of it. So let's think back about our very first day of high school. When you arrived at high school, were you just handed a bunch of books and left to wander around the halls to figure out where to go and what to do? Were you just given a stack of books and said, here you go, have at it? Is that what happened? Go ahead and chat it in. Tell me, is that was that your experience when you first showed up to your first day of high school? Okay, so I'm getting a mostly, yeah, really, pretty much? So you were just handed a bunch of books and you just said, okay, wander around the halls, figure out where your classes are, figure out what you need to take. You'll figure it out. You'll wander into the right room eventually. That's not really what happened, or else maybe think back to college, because what happened first is there was some kind of orientation, some kind of guidelines that we had as to what it takes to get through high school. Okay, so unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of you did not have a lot of support. Okay, here we go. So Georgie girl, you're saying you got a class schedule, you got books. That's something, right? So freshmen and sophomores started at 1 and we were lost. Okay, so maybe your experiences of high school weren't so good. Maybe you guys need to think about college, right? Because in college, there's definitely more going on there, okay? More to prepare you and more to set you up for a good experience. Okay, so at first, maybe this is in college, when you show up, you have some sort of guideline as to what you need to do, right? Some sort of orientation. And if you had an orientation, what kind of or let's say you should have had an orientation, and if you were to have one, what kind of information do you think you would learn in that orientation? Yeah, so good, orientation. What kind of information should be included in an orientation? What do you think? And Georgie, you've already answered some of this, right? The school layout, the expectations, excellent. Keep them coming. Rules. Georgie said earlier she was given books and a schedule. Good, a schedule. Thank you. All right, so yeah, we had a schedule of all of our classes for the semester. Maybe, all importantly, where the facilities are, where are the bathrooms, where's the lunchroom, even more important, right? Where's the lunchroom? Or do you have off-campus lunch capability? So you were given the rules, the guidelines, the schedules. So let's say you got your schedule and your first class was English. Now, when you go to class, you show up in your English class, what did you get there? Okay, I like that. Culture, objectives, good answers, good answers. Keep that in mind. So when you show up to English class, what did you get? A syllabus. Okay, nice. So you get either a syllabus, maybe you get an outline. Maybe not all teachers were organized enough to have a full syllabus, but they would tell you your major assignments. I like that, Bob. How do we get an A? Okay, yeah, that's what we're told when we first walk in. What's their expectation so we can get an A or so that we can pass if you're just hoping to just pass, if that's all you care about. So at least they told you what your major assignments were, what those due dates were, if you had any big tests or big papers that were due. They gave you that, right? So they gave you some kind of advanced knowledge of what was expected so that you can manage your time and get the work done. All right, so in thinking about that first day, hopefully some of you didn't, but hopefully you would have had an orientation. You were given a schedule of all your classes. You had to be given some kind of information, right? So you had a schedule of your classes that told you where and when to show up. And when you did show up for class, you were given some kind of a syllabus or a schedule that listed your assignments and the major deliverables so that you knew what you had to learn. So what we've gotten so far is the what that we have to learn, right? So what we're given so far is, is structure. All right, yeah, I like that. So due dates, A's, how do we get an A, due dates for tests and papers? So what we're given so far is structure. So we were provided with the structure for our learning. Okay, now that we've got structure in place, now let's say we've established some kind of structure. So now let's think about the actual learning itself. Picture yourself in class. What was one of your favorite classes? Someone shout out, what's your favorite class? Or what's a class that sticks in your mind, good or bad? Okay, math. Okay, Robin, that's an interesting topic. People either love or hate math, right? So the first two answers, math and algebra, I like it. So you're now in math class, all right? What kinds of resources and tools did you have available to help you learn and get through the math class? Loved math. I like that. So what kind of resources or tools did you have available to help you learn? The teacher? Great. Calculators? Earlier, books were mentioned. That certainly is part of it. TAs? Good. Teaching assistants? Maybe videos, classmates and partners? Excellent. All of that helps you learn. Okay, so now maybe you're in class and you're starting to struggle a little bit. You find that you're really not scoring as well on the tests that you wanted to score. Maybe your report scores, you've submitted your math homework and you're just not getting the scores that you wanted. What did you do then? If you're not getting that A that you wanted, all right, you find a homework buddy, you get a tutor. Okay, good. What else? Talk to the teacher. Ask the instructor where you're lacking. Good, good. Maybe your parents. No, don't skip the class. So, Bob, you're the one that wanted to get an A. You get an A by skipping class? That's I got to learn how to do that. Okay, but maybe your parents stepped in and helped. There's a lot of ways that you could reach out for help and a lot of sources that you can go to. So what you've all described is these are all ways that we could get support. Okay, so the support was what helped guide us through the learning process and made sure